Dear listener, before the story begins, I ask you to subscribe to my channel. This is the best motivation at the start. And we are starting. Shakespeare's words, "Love is meager if it can be quantified," are indeed profound and beautiful. I would supplement them by saying, love is inadequate if it can be gauged or appraised. Since childhood, we have been instructed in several fundamental truths about what is most precious in our lives and cannot be bought or sold. These include virtues such as integrity, diligence, deference to elders, and, as a distinct point, the notion of love. Much has been written and countless movies have been made about love. One could easily become mired in reflections on it and struggle to emerge. Today, I will recount a true story. You can determine for yourself whether love was present. It was a typical Monday morning, around 7 a.m., when he awoke. As he was preparing for work, he suddenly recalled that he had taken a week off at his own expense. The previous 2 weeks at the office had been a nightmare. As usual, they had procrastinated on finishing the project until the deadline, and then scrambled to catch up. As a web designer, he had spent those days glued to his computer, only taking breaks for sleep, meals, and the restroom. All these factors had led to weight gain and stress, making it challenging for him to fall asleep and wake up. After successfully completing the project, he resolved to return to exercising and took time off to establish a new routine. Following a light breakfast, he reclined on the sofa and spent about an hour catching up on the latest news on his tablet, as he had been disconnected from life due to his intense workload. Then he started getting ready for the gym. On the way, he was thrilled that he could finally fully enjoy the half-empty gym and available exercise equipment. Entering the gym, he greeted the receptionist with his usual smile, took the keys to his locker, and headed to the changing room. When he stepped into the gym, a grin involuntarily spread across his face, as he was the only one there and all the machines were at his disposal. He began with a short run on the treadmill, moved to the exercise bike, and then transitioned to strength training. After completing a set of dumbbell flies, he took a break. Strolling around the gym and the machines, he observed through the panoramic windows how traffic was starting to build up on the nearby avenue. Perhaps he felt a twinge of schadenfreude, but it was very satisfying for him to realize that while others were stuck in traffic and getting stressed, he was in the gym, improving his health. After a brief pause, he resumed his workout. As he performed the strength exercises, he started to contemplate his life and the need for change, as the years were passing swiftly. He was already in his 30s, but there were no signs of him starting his own family or having children. Yes, it's now called the trendy term child-free, but that didn't apply to him either, as he was completely single and lacked a stable relationship. Typically, by the age of 30, people approach partner selection more thoughtfully, and fleeting flings no longer hold appeal. They crave some stability. Since his previous relationships had amounted to nothing, he had decided to take a break and focus on work. It's worth noting that during this period, his nerves were calm, and his productivity increased. In general, there was complete tranquility. Allow me to share a few details about him. From kindergarten, he had approached choosing a girl with utmost seriousness, always selecting the very best. It may seem cliched and elicit an ironic smile, but even in kindergarten, he was drawn to the most beautiful girls. He maintained these principles throughout his school years, which brought him numerous problems, as he was distinguished neither by his appearance nor his physical strength. As a result, he often got beaten up by stronger boys who also fancied the pretty girls. After graduating from school, he entered university. During his studies, another issue was added to his shortcomings: a lack of sufficient funds, as all the beauties were often mercenary. In summary, we've covered his flaws. Now let's discuss his merits. He was an average student and graduated from university without difficulty, after which he secured a job that interested him. It was similar with girls. He was always surrounded by many of them, including numerous friends and work colleagues. He had long-term romances with some, but despite this, he never felt strong feelings for any of them, which greatly offended the girls. He always strived to be honest with them and spoke frankly, yet the girls still stayed with him. This continued for some time. However, now that he was over 30, these short-lived intrigues simply wore him down, and he yearned for peace. So, after he finished working with the dumbbells, He approached the barbell and was about to add weight plates when she suddenly entered the gym. She was a brunette of average height, around 25 years old, with a slim and beautiful physique. It was immediately evident that she was athletic, but at that moment, her body was secondary, as her face was strikingly beautiful. Her green eyes and full lips instantly caught his attention. Moreover, by his 30s, he had learned to distinguish between the skilled work of a cosmetologist and natural beauty, and in this case, it was the latter. Her facial features were exceptionally perfect, and he simply had nothing to criticize. I reiterate, he himself was far from perfect, and whenever he encountered a beautiful girl, he would immediately try to find flaws in her appearance to convince himself that nothing in this world was flawless and that everyone had shortcomings. Sometimes an imperfect exterior can conceal a perfect soul. But with this girl, everything about her appearance was perfect. She walked past him and with a slight smile softly said, "Good afternoon," to which he replied, "Good afternoon," and returned to preparing his barbell. She plugged wireless earphones into her ears and stepped onto the treadmill. Influenced by the striking appearance of this stranger, he loaded extra weight onto the barbell. With difficulty, he completed the first set. His arms nearly cramped, and he realized he had made a mistake, but he persevered, as he couldn't look bad in front of her. At that time, the girl switched to a light jog, and he, sitting on the bench, silently admired her beauty. At that moment, thousands of thoughts and speculations were whirling in his head like a supercomputer processor. But most importantly, he clearly understood that she had captivated him. Yes, she had defeated the grown man with just her appearance, effortlessly and without even trying. It was extremely foolish and unpleasant to acknowledge this, but he was compelled to admit his defeat, as his analytical mind had vanished somewhere. Perhaps at that moment, it had taken a break. Slightly unloading the barbell and completing a couple more sets, he already realized that he would not forgive himself if he didn't approach this girl. Moreover, they were the only ones in the gym, and such a coincidence was extremely rare. He decided to act and walk towards her. At that time, she was running on the treadmill. Since she had wireless earphones in her ears and loud music was likely playing, she didn't immediately hear him addressing her. Then he circled around her treadmill, stood directly in front of her, and said, "Hello again, my name is Andrew," to which she reduced her running pace to a calm walk, removed the earphones from her ears, and said, "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm Alina," extending her hand to him. Moreover, it seemed somewhat friendly, as if they had known each other before. He decided to switch to the informal you right away and continued, "I apologize for interrupting your run, but I couldn't forgive myself if I didn't come up and introduce myself. You look fantastic. Have you been training for a long time? I haven't seen you here before." "Thank you for the compliments. I'm here for the first time, as I recently moved to this neighborhood and selected this gym based on online reviews, and I see that I made the right choice. It's really comfortable here." "Well, yes, if it weren't for some irritating guy," he joked. "I have a normal attitude towards meeting and communicating with sensible people. Moreover, I'm a Gemini according to the zodiac, and we are extroverts by nature. We can't go a day without interaction and learning something new," she said with a smile. "Oh, do you believe in horoscopes?" he inquired. "Not that I fully believe, but there's something to them, as I noticed that people born under the same sign possess certain traits that are described in books, and it's a convenient topic for conversations. What sign are you?" "I'm a representative of the fire element," he said with a grin. "Aries or Leo?" the girl asked. "Almost guessed. I'll give you a hint. I'm a smoldering fire, and my sign is second to last in the year." "You're a Sagittarius," she said. He then proudly replied with a smile, "Yes, I'm a Sagittarius, a fiery wanderer and eternal seeker of the ideal." To which she laughed softly and said, "I had a Sagittarius friend in school. We got along great, but then she moved abroad. In general, it's not a bad sign, but with its own peculiarities. I think that every person is unique in their own way, and you can find common ground with anyone. What are you doing this evening?" He decided to get straight to the point, as from his experience, he was already convinced that girls dislike indecisive guys. Most often, they relegate them to the friend zone, and in this case, he couldn't allow that to happen. She was a little taken aback by the unexpected turn of the conversation, but then said with a smile, "I have English classes this evening, followed by Pilates." I admit, I didn't expect that answer from you, as girls of your type usually start out playing hard to get and pretending to be inaccessible. But here you are making contact yourself, he replied. For a couple of seconds, he froze, and a slight blush appeared on his cheeks. Then he answered, "I'll give a banal response. Yes, and not only coffee. I'm not against it, but today it will probably be too late, as I'll be free around 9 p.m., and you will likely already be resting at that time." Resting? That's kids' time. It's just at that hour that the city becomes more open, no traffic jams, and you can leisurely drive through all its beautiful locations. Are you originally from the capital? No, I'm from another city, but I've been living and working here since I was 18. I obtained my first higher education here, and now I'm studying part-time. I also graduated from a modeling school and work part-time at photo shoots. My photos are featured in some magazines and on banners in the city's shopping centers. Where are you from and what do you do? I'm from a city in the east. Due to the war, I relocated here. By profession, I'm an engineer, but I successfully completed web design courses, and I work in this new field. Okay, if you don't mind, give me your number, and I'll be able to pick you up after your classes in the evening, and we'll have a good time. I promise, he said with a smile and a hint of uncertainty. All right, but let's message each other instead, as I may not be able to answer the phone at that moment, she said, and dictated her numbers to him, after which he went to do a set on the barbell. And people started to arrive at the gym. He decided not to bother her with his communication, and after doing a couple more exercises, headed to the locker room. Having quickly showered and changed, he made his way home. As he was leaving the gym, he noticed a white Porsche Cayenne in the parking lot. He might not have paid much attention to it if it weren't for its license plates. Elena was written on the plate in Latin letters, and on the back seat of the car, he spotted a small soft toy, a pink bunny. He admits that he was in shock from what he saw. He was trembling. He was certain it was her car, as she was the only girl in the gym. Yes, no one but a girl could drive such a car a priori. Where am I looking? My income isn't sufficient to maintain her and her car, let alone the girl herself, he indignantly thought to himself. Then he got into his 7-year-old Mazda and drove towards home. On the way, he stopped at a gas station, where in addition to gasoline, he also purchased coffee with milk. Sitting at a table at the gas station, he pondered what had transpired. He was really drawn to this girl, both in terms of her appearance and her personality. He was well aware that if she was a model, and most likely she was, then he shouldn't even write to her. But his gut was pulling him towards her. To share his experiences, he decided to call his friend and colleague. "Hey dude, how's your day off going?" his friend said in a cheerful voice. "Everything is fine. Resting, not working. Is it convenient for you to talk now? Are you busy?" he inquired. "You're lucky. I'm completely free as I've gone out for lunch. What's with your voice? It sounds kind of agitated," his friend said. "In principle, everything is okay. Just a little surprised," he replied. "What or who surprised you?" his friend asked curiously. "About her," he said. He recounted how he met her, to which his friend responded that he shouldn't jump to premature conclusions and should definitely go meet her, as the Porsche could have been given to her by either a sugar daddy or her parents, and he shouldn't immediately give up and label this girl. He spent the entire day thinking about her. He tried to find her on social networks to conduct at least a brief analysis of her personality, but unfortunately, apart from her number and Viber account, he had nothing. Around 7 p.m., he messaged her, and they agreed that at 9 p.m. he would pick her up after her Pilates classes. These classes took place in a building located in the central district of the city. At 8:50 p.m., he was already there, as he had decided to arrive early. On the way, he stopped by a flower stall and bought a bouquet of long white roses. He chose not to tie them and simply placed the flowers on the back seat. Arriving at the parking lot, he immediately started inspecting the cars parked there, but there was no Porsche. Perhaps it was a coincidence, and he had wound himself up for nothing, he thought, although something told him that the Porsche belonged to her, and now she had decided not to show off. At exactly 9 p.m., she emerged from the building. Seeing her, he exited the car and waved to her. She approached and said with a smile, "Oh, you're so punctual. Are you always like that?" "Practically," he replied with a smile, after which he opened the back door of the car and retrieved the flowers. "Oh, that's so nice. They're so long and beautiful," she said joyfully. "You're more beautiful," he said with a smile. Then they got into the car. He asked her if she wanted to eat, to which she replied that she doesn't eat after 6 p.m. but wouldn't refuse coffee. To his suggestion to go to a cafe or restaurant, she declined, citing fatigue and unwillingness to see a large crowd of people. So they decided to stop by a drive-thru, buy a couple of cups of coffee, and head towards a landmark bridge to take a stroll on the glass walkway. As they walked along it, they conversed about everything. He told her about his homeland and how he was waiting for the war to end. He also mentioned that he really loves the sky and airplanes. She also shared stories about her childhood and hobbies, and in general the conversation flowed smoothly. But the only thing that alarmed him was that she was reluctant to discuss her modeling work. She only mentioned that her photos were quite popular and could be found online. She also said that her first specialty was as an economist, and now she was pursuing an education in psychology through correspondence courses. She expressed that she enjoyed her future profession because she loved to communicate and get to know people. During their walk, someone kept calling her, and she would reject the call. When he asked who was pestering her, she replied that it was a friend, and she didn't have time to answer her now. Then he recommended sending an SMS, to which she said she would call back after their meeting. Despite the pleasant conversation and her external beauty, thoughts arose in his mind that this girl was not who she pretended to be, that Portia wouldn't leave his mind alone. After the walk, she asked him to drop her off at the supermarket, which she said was near her home, where she allegedly wanted to buy some groceries. When he offered to help carry the bag to her entrance, she refused. When he returned home, he brewed himself some tea and, sitting in the kitchen, thought about her for a long time. He really liked this girl. Moreover, she was one of those who captivate both with their appearance and inner world. But with all her positive qualities, there was an air of understatement. That's what alerted him.